Welcome back, everybody. It's your boys talking about The Boys.
Hey.
Season 2, the Amazon Prime television series that is
included with Prime.
Included with Prime. That is an adaptation of a comic book by Garth Ennis, pretty sure.
Garth Ennis?
I'm pretty sure it's not Brooks.
Let's start this off. It'd be a very different tale if it was Garth Brooks. So basically, I mean, if you're not familiar with The Boys, we're going to be talking about season 2 today. And honestly,
the second season.
This episode might not be the episode for you if you haven't seen The Boys at all.
Get out of here right now.
Yeah.
Why did you click on this?
Yeah, we have a season 1 discussion that we did back when season 1 came out. But if you're still listening and you're not familiar with what The Boys is, it's basically like a cynical parody of the superhero genre, but also on a bit of a meta level. So it's like heroes that exist in a world where there is like an MCU level of commercialism, I should say.
Like straight up one for one.
And some of them might not be the heroes that we think they are.
Though I'd say it's more of a parody of DC.
Oh yeah, and especially season 2, it gets really DC specific. But let's dive right in. We're going to do a little bit of spoiler-free discussion. Danny, what did you think about The Boys season 2?
Well, I tell you what, boys, it was fantastic. What a ride. I was worried there was going to be a sophomore slump. But I think when I saw the trailer, it just put all my fears. It's like subsided all my fears. I was like, wow, this looks crazy. Like literally just brain splattered all over the place crazy. And it was more gruesome. It was more off the wall. It amplified everything times 10. And honestly, when I saw the end of season 1, I was thinking like, where are they going to go from here? How does it get any bigger? How does it get any better? And they just formulated like this awesome reworking of the source material and just made such an intriguing plot and really delved deeper into each of the characters, even the surface level ones from the first season that you were just like, oh, well, I've got this one pin. Like, you know what I mean? We'll get a little bit more into that, but really amazing. As far as the second season goes, it is completely worth a watch. I binged it as soon as it came out. Sadly, Amazon didn't want to release it all at once, which I would have binged it in like a day.
Yeah, I think we binged as much as was possible.
Yeah, as binge possible. You know what? I kind of like that. Something about it. It gives you something to look forward to, especially in like a quarantine time. It's like, oh, well, Friday The Boys comes out. We can watch The Boys instead of like, oh shoot, I watched 6 hours of it on Saturday and now I'm done.
Yeah, and even like, because even now we're like, well, now we play the waiting game, you know? Exactly.
Well,
now we got to wait for season 3.
Good old Mandalorian
Even
comes out at the end of the
longer.
month, and I think they have the same scenario going on. They're going to.
But where does it end, David? There's nothing else in production that's going to come out.
Well, that's true too, right? So this next wait's going to be painful. Like some shows are just never going to come back, and some shows it's going to be like 3 years later.
Yeah.
It's going to be nuts. What did you think, Frank? What were your general impressions?
Love season 2. I think a lot of the points Danny were making, like they did the perfect job of taking everything up one notch. Like there was no slump at all. It's really just an acceleration of everything. I love the way we got to know people better. Lots of like, one of the things I found in my notes, I was trying to get down like important plot points, and really like almost every scene is like important to the progression of the story. Like, I don't know. It's just, dare I say, like a perfect show. Like, I don't know if I have any complaints with any part of The Boys, season 2 especially. Like, what a fun, delightful, shocking, wild ride.
Ooh, how nicely put. Boys season 2, I also heavily enjoyed the show. I really like The Boys. What a great show. I read part of the comic book after season 1. Pretty mediocre comic book by my standard. I mean, it's just a little too crass. That's really what's going on. It's too crass for
That's what it's got.
For my taste. And also the art style. I wasn't crazy about the art style of the comic book. But anyways, the show, love the show. Been having a great time. Season 2, I think it's a really great second season of a show. And I think you guys are hitting on the head about the pacing, and the elevated stakes.
Someone say we're always right about pacing over here in the Thirsty Tuesday.
Well, except for, I don't know, we had a little bit of discussion on that other episode. Coming soon, Cursed Films, the podcast. Anyway, not that Shudder show that blew up our spot.
Oh my goodness, how unfortunate.
Quick side tangent here. If you're
Not a
listening,
plug.
If you're listening to this episode on Sunday, we got another episode coming out of the podcast that we just recorded. And we're talking about haunted movie sets. And we made this idea about a cursed film podcast quite a ways back.
It was back in August, July,
And then what happens, of course, there's an announcement that Shudder's doing our idea of that podcast, but in a multi-episode format, I'm assuming.
We found out about it the weekend before we recorded.
It was
they had an advertisement on TV for it. I was like,
oh no. But anyways, back to Boys Season 2. Go check out that podcast on Sunday if you like this one.
Watch it.
But Boys Season 2, I do have a few minor complaints in Season 2 that keeps it from being perfect, I guess, in my eyes. I would almost even say that I think that Season 1 might be just a little bit stronger in the sense that in Season 1, it just feels so insurmountable. The powers of the enemies and the boys are so intense that... at any moment, everything could fall apart. Whereas in Season 2, I think we do get a bit of that good old Game of Thrones Season 8 plot armor, where it's just some characters, they're not going to be able to be killed. And some of it's written in a very clever way. But at the end of the day, our protagonist, Huey, okay, well, Huey's not going to die. And it does alleviate a little bit of the tension when some of the stakes aren't as high as it felt in the first season, where I was like, man, I have no idea what's going to happen. But I do got to say, I like the themes that they included this season. I like where the characters' plots went, especially most of the 7. I think they all had really interesting development this season.
Oh, yeah.
But that actually brings me into one other little minor complaint. It's just that I felt this season goes very hard on the current topical satire. They're pulling a page out of the South Park book. But it's to the point where I feel if people watch The Boys in 15 years or something, some 17-year-old kids what's The Boys? Let me check this out. And then they're watching this older season of TV. It's going to be really confusing because a lot of the references...
It's going to be wow, people used to go outside?
Yeah, it's like watching a...
I was going to say that definitely goes under the preconceived notion that there will be in America in 15 years.
Wow, you used to be able to congregate in a crowd?
Let's hold up. Even if there's not in America, there'll still be an Amazon in 15 years. Let's make sure that's clear.
That's true.
Bezos has a
Walmart
contingency.
Yeah, he does. But it's like watching reruns of 80s SNL. You know what I mean? You're this skit's pretty funny, but I really don't know what they're talking about.
Oh, wow, well, this funny fat guy you don't really see him in films anymore. I wonder what happened to him.
Find out this Sunday. No, anyway... but yeah, I don't want to. I'm not trying to be the Debbie Downer. I still think this is great TV.
Well, you would be the David Downer.
The David Downer.
David Downer.
And I gotta say, maybe the strongest TV show I've seen this year. I think The Boys is just hitting it out of the park right now. But with that, I mean, I guess we should get into our discussion that involves.
We shall venture into spoiler territory.
Yes.
It's spoiler time, baby.
Yeah, please. Please click away, finish watching it, and come back to us.
Yeah, because it's seriously 100% worth a watch.
I think so. So who do you guys want to talk about first? Who's the peoples?
My heart just wants to talk about the Deep first. Because he's just the Deep's entire arc through the entire series at this point. What a wild ride.
Mm-hmm.
And this season in particular.
Yeah, so this season we get the experience of the Deep is depressed, He doesn't feel like he has any purpose left in life, which is the situation a lot of people find themselves in before they join a cult. So the Deep finds himself being recruited by this Fresca-loving cult, the Church of Enlightenment.
The Fresca thing is pretty. It made me really want a Fresca. I was like, man, I hope this is a paid sponsorship because it's working.
Yeah, right. I kept thinking the same thing. I was like, I haven't had a Fresca in a long time. It's really a delicious beverage.
A perfect analogy for Scientology, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is very much. There's like the big like excommunication thing, the like toxic personalities, the way that this church like gathers information on like their church members.
Well, and then even Alistair, whatever his name is, like a perfect David Miscavige, like lookalike.
It also gets me with and I guess this isn't as on the nose. Maybe it's like there's a little more assumption here, but in the end, we kind of figure out that the church sort of like controls the government to an extent, which is pretty cool stuff too. Like, I mean, hopefully that's not real about Scientology, but
well, they do have money, David, and you know that money runs the government.
The money works. It does indeed.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. America, where you can throw money at a problem. A couple of things I really liked about the Deeps arc this season was I love the like love interview thing, the like search to find Deep's wife. That whole thing's pretty entertaining.
Yeah, because the church is trying to improve his image.
Yeah, the whole this relationship is to serve his journey back into the Seven, into the good graces of the Seven. But he's the Deep, so and it's not going to go great. He has his like spiritual journey that is his buddy Eagle the Archer like sets him on with those weird fungi. And we get the delightful voice of Patton Oswalt coming out of the Deep's chest, which was fun.
That's
always
right.
fun to hear Mr. Oswalt.
We also get a little bit of a play on the big funny Deep scene of season 1 was maybe his conversation with that dolphin right before it dies. But we get a little bit more of like the Deep's emotional attachment to these sea creatures when that whale gets killed. And it's funny to me. It's funny to me when he like anthropomorphizes animals, like when he's talking to. Well, no, he's not doing that. He's personifying them. But it really cracks me up because it's just like. It's so funny. I don't know what you would think that Aquaman would talk like that probably.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, oh, my buddy Jeff.
Especially in that lobster scene from the scene 1, I think.
Yeah, series 1. Yeah, that's really good.
Like, I'm gonna get you out of here, buddy.
Season 1, he like refers to like his buddies down at the dock.
Yeah,
and then the Homeland's like porpoises. He means porpoises.
Yeah, that's one thing I really like about that character.
He's just like such a loser. It's so good.
Such a laughing stock.
His like first scene of the season is him like drunkenly berating kids at like a water park. His whole like spiel of like, you think water's fun? Wait till you see how fun it is when you're trying to swim through the Marianas Trench.
Sandusky, Ohio.
I gotta say, so the Deep, it felt like they're really going on sort of a. It doesn't feel the way it's coming across. It doesn't feel totally sincere to me, but they're putting him on like a redemption arc. But we're still poking fun at him. We're not supposed to be on his side all the way. I'm just predicting that if season 3 ever comes out, if it ever ends up happening, that the Deep is going to have to, he's going to have some big like sacrificial moment or something where he really learns his lesson. Cause he still hasn't learned his lesson yet. Really. No. He's just about wanting to be part of the Seven and like, he'll do anything to do that right now.
I love when he yells in that scene where they like figure out that A-Train's getting back like the church and him. And he's just like, what do you mean? I got married to this girl who gives terrible BJs.
Yeah.
Or he even tells A-Train, what does he tell him? Like, oh, you can't trust that guy or something. He like immediately changes.
Oh,
like,
yeah. When they find out they excommunicate Eagle the Archer, when he's like, dude, I thought that guy was your friend. He's like, nah, F that guy.
Yeah. He's very self-centered right now, but some really, really funny stuff. And I think, that thing with your gills, the thing with the gills you're talking about, not your gills, but the Deep skills.
I have no gills.
Yeah, I hope you don't.
Yeah. It'd be cool, though.
But I really love in that scene where, like, he kind of becomes more confident in himself, and you think that he's going to turn the right side, turn aside, you know what I mean? But then...
for a second, it looks like he's going to do it.
In the next scene, though, like, Homelander tells him, like, oh, your gills are showing. Make sure you cover that up. It's disgusting.
That honestly made me feel, like, really bad. He was, like, trying his hardest, you know what I mean? And it just, that hit to his ego took him straight back. Oh, my gills are gross.
But other than that, the Deep plays a pretty small part. Not too big. Like, we follow his storyline. He's not totally consequential.
Like, they try to use him, but he just fumbles it and gets one of his buddies killed.
I'm sure he, like you said, David, he's going to serve a purpose, right? Because they just have things on there that are jokes kind of like fall out, but like there's definitely a reason they're giving him so much screen time. Right?
You know what the Deep's big purpose was this season? It was bringing A-Train to the church, because that ends up being pretty important.
That's true. Yeah, and the church ends up being a very big entity here, which actually gets us on to A-Train. I mean, A-Train is kind of
Double agent.
yeah, but and
the other agency is like himself.
I was gonna say everybody's playing for themselves in this season, like, and they're willing to betray their comrades as long as it benefits
serves them.
Yeah,
Because you don't mess with the money.
no, you don't.
Well, and I think it's because the overarching theme that it's not Vought isn't really about the Seven anymore. Like it's about heroes in general. Because like the big thing of season 1 was just like propelling the image of the Seven and what they are. And now that Stormfront has kind of made it about herself and all that, and Homelander, it's more so focused on them too. But it's more so just focused on heroes in general, making more heroes. So it is a self-serving agenda for everyone, really.
That's true. Yeah, it's definitely self-serving for those guys. And the A-Train, in a self-serving manner, also joins this cult. And, I mean, I think the funniest part to me is when they're doing their Justice League movie. So, like, the seven film movies where they're acting as themselves in this universe, and then people go watch those movies.
It's like the Rise of the Seven or whatever.
Yeah, the Rise of the Seven.
Wasn't there a Dawn of Justice?
I think there was a Dawn of Justice in there somewhere. And then they're even making jokes about like the Snyder Cut. They're talking about like
the Joss rewrite.
Yeah, the Joss. Yeah, they even say it's Joss Whedon, right, who comes in to rewrite.
Well,
the
they don't hit Whedon. They just say like, "Oh, the Joss rewrite is really popping." Yeah,
they go full. They go full with it. Which is one of those things that I'm saying, like, it's funny. It's really funny right now, but I just feel like it's not going to date very well. Like, people are going to be so confused. Oh, you got to remember that really bad DC universe they had for a while. And you remember when
nobody remembers that.
When Zack Snyder, yeah, exactly. No one's going to remember.
There's some old dude, Brandon, who keeps talking about it on the internet, but besides that.
Oh, man. But the A-Train, he gets replaced in the Seven for a bit.
Yeah, they kick him out because his heart's not pumping as good as it used to.
But then,
with Sonic Wave, what's his name? Shockwave.
But then ultimately he ends up getting back though, because how does he die again? How does
Shockwave's head gets exploded?
They pop his head during the congressional hearing.
Well, that's a big thing. We'll have to get into that.
That'll definitely make a new job opening.
Yeah.
It's funny to me because the Seven hasn't been 7 people since the first season.
No.
Yeah, they've always like had like a rotating spot open.
Yeah, like ever since they killed Translucent in one of the first episodes, that was it, and they haven't been able to get that number back up.
Well, even like we start off the series with them replacing Lamplighter.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
replacing Lamplighter, which we get a little bit of this season too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Lamplighter's arc.
Yeah, that whole thing is dope.
I really liked it because you see him, you think he's a scumbag, you kind of realize that they humanize him a little bit.
Yeah.
And you think that he's on the path to redemption. But in reality, he's just self-serving like the rest of them. And it's amazing when he's just like, I just wanted to get in here to kill myself.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
And
that's pretty much like Lamplighter's entire arc.
Yeah,
through the season.
he gets Huey into Vought. But he's pretty much there just to kind of wrap things up.
But also Huey, this is jumping ahead a bit for sure, but Huey couldn't have pulled off the escape without the helping hand of Lamplighter, if you know what I mean.
That's true. It really kills me that Lamplighter is played by, I'm pretty sure his name is Sean Ashmore.
Iceman. Yeah.
But yeah, he's Iceman from X-Men. It's like this dude is played, it is Sean Ashmore.
The heat miser and the cold miser.
Yeah, he's played both misers, man. How cool is that? How exciting for that role.
I think Lamplighter got the burn notice in the end.
Wow. If only Bruce Campbell. Wait, who's in burn notice?
It is Bruce Campbell.
Okay, if only Bruce
Campbell and some other dude.
And that other guy. No one knows who. The star.
Yeah, the star whose name escapes me.
Yeah, so Lamplighter's got a little bit role. Is there anyone else who's got a... Well, I mean... Black Noir is like he's comedy relief really in the weirdest way.
For the most part, one of the things I really liked about his arc this season was the humanizing aspect when they released the news about V and he's just blubbering like a baby in the hallway. Because he's just like, man, I didn't have to be like this monster. Like you guys made me that.
But to me, that just comes off as like funny to me. I don't even know if I'm supposed to sympathize with
That's
Black
because you're heartless.
I think it seems like it's played for laughs because it's like contrary.
I didn't feel that at all. I feel like
Really?
I just saw this little boy that they plucked out of like a nursery and they turned him into this like beast.
I just think it would.
I know-
It'd be funny to see Batman crying in the hallway. You know
That
what
would
I
just
mean?
make me feel good because I hate him.
I know that there's a lot, and we're probably going to get in a little conspiracy theory alley right here because there's a lot popping up about Black Noir. There's theories that like he is Stan Edgar. There's theories that he is a clone of Stan Edgar. There's theories that he is...
That's a dumb theory because Stan Edgar calls him on the phone.
Yeah, but it could be a clone of him. Like a Vought clone of him.
Interesting.
There's also theories that Black Noir is like a less refined version of Homelander. Because I think in the comics, Black Noir is a perfect clone of Homelander.
Oh, really? Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See, it's always funny when you get into these comic things, but of course, at the beginning of this season, I was like, "There's no way they're following the comic book
no,
because
no.
this
It
is
has
like
veered a lot.
so
from what I'm-
topical."
I'd have to take your word for it.
But you know what? I don't know. I don't see them making Black Noir a bigger character. He just seems like
I feel like he serves, like his purpose is like the attack dog. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? They send him out
Yeah.
on a mission. He carries out the mission, and
yeah.
that's the end of that. It's cool. It's fun to watch him fight.
I wouldn't mind
He was
seeing more
great.
of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. His face, maybe. Somebody peel that thing, the mask off, you know? See the horror that lies beneath.
Well, I guess since we're going the 7, we can go like in order of importance, and I guess that would mean Queen Maeve is probably next. She doesn't have a huge arc this season, but there's some big stuff that happens with her. Like,
Definitely.
Like big things that somebody should have the right to do on their own, and it's very rude for somebody else to take that
Yeah.
upon themselves.
yeah,
Like being outed as a homosexual.
exactly. That's really what the big thing is here, and then kind of the media's reaction to having.
Classic Michael Scott moment.
Oh wow!
Yeah, legit.
It is just like that episode of The Office.
Except it was like, instead of having it done because the guy's a bumbling idiot, it was like done out of malice.
yeah, it really was.
Oh yeah. And for
to
marketing
like,
purposes.
yeah, to serve his own agenda. Yeah.
Maeve's always been super frustrating to me because you know that she doesn't agree with everything that's happening, but refuses to like speak out on it whatsoever.
She's like institutionalized a little bit.
Yeah.
And she's one of the few that could actually stand up to Homelander.
Yeah, like she could do something. That's what's so frustrating about her. But in this, at the end of the season, we actually do have her stand up to Homefront, which is really
That's
refreshing.
because girls get it done, dude.
I like
get
how you
done.
said Homefront too. It was like you made a
Homefront.
Homelander Stormfront couple name.
That's what I totally intended to do.
Good on you, David. Good work. Good work.
Hashtag Homefront. everyone.
Hashtag Homefront. That PS3 video game no one remembers.
But I agree with you, David. She's really frustrating in the fact that she's complacent with things and she could be a bigger part of like solving things, which maybe she will at some point now. But also, you know, I'm just really not interested in the whole Elena storyline. I think it's good to give some depth to the character, but I think they play into it a little hard. And I don't know. Yeah, Queen Maeve is frustrating, but also I liked seeing her like able to use her abilities and using it for good in this season.
Yeah,
Yeah, a little less complacent for sure.
for sure. Saves the day.
One of the things I liked about like the Maeve being outed thing was like corporate America capitalizing on that kind of thing when they go to Votland on the
yeah.
family trip. The waiters offering the new
Maeve lasagna.
Brave Maeve Rainbow Veggie Burger that's on the menu. And that got a chuckle out of me. I was like, you would. Yeah, they would do exactly that. You know what I mean?
That is what would happen.
Yeah.
for sure.
And when I think Maeve goes into a little bit of a downward spiral, and Ashley, the PR person, like catches her in bed with like all these dudes, and she's like, "This is not what lesbians do."
I think it's just one guy.
I think it is. Just
I think
one
there was
guy.
two.
I think you fantasize more
Yeah,
dudes.
I think that is projection.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for that.
You're like, I'm pretty sure there was another guy in the bed. He had like state of Hawaii tattooed on his tummy. The tiniest nips you've ever seen in your life.
the
massive schlong.
that
Hold on,
poor-
spoilers. We'll get there.
That poor secretary, man. She deals with so much. That's got to be the most stressful job, in
Dude,
the
when she
world.
like has that bald patch
Yeah.
from her stress pulling all of her hair out.
Oh god.
I mean,
bad.
yeah, you could be killed at any point, not just lose your $1 million job.
She's also in Fear the Walking Dead. That actress in one of the worst roles.
Yeah,
so-
she's not very fun to
So
see
forgettable.
on camera.
One of the other things, when they have Maeve and Elena doing that, they had that meeting with like the marketing team, and they're pitching like Elena's new look.
Yeah.
And they talk about like, well, yeah, like two feminine women sends the wrong message, but America's much more comfortable with like clearly defined gender roles, like Ellen and I forget Ellen's partner's name.
Portia de Rossi.
Portia, yeah. That joke got me for sure.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's some good stuff right there.
And the whole like, Maeve's bi, right? And like, lesbian's an easier sell.
Man,
good stuff. But yeah, I guess you have to have Maeve do something. She's there.
Yeah,
you got to give her some kind of arc.
Serves a good role.
She serves a purpose. Yeah, for sure.
And now we're set up for season 3, Civil War. You know what I mean?
Legit.
Batman v Superman, dawn of punching each other.
So I guess we should move on to. Well, should we do? What? Stormfront?
Well, I think Starlight would make the most sense because I feel like
Starlight.
Stormfront and Homelander are like the same.
Yeah, we can kind of discuss them at the same time, more or less.
But Starlight.
Well, I was.
Oh, what were you gonna say? Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I do actually have more of an appreciation for Homelander, but we'll talk about Homelander when we get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Homelander does some stuff, whereas Stormfront is like on a path.
Stormfront's like assisting the Homefront storyline. But Starlight, she's really dealing with the big revelation that the Supes are not. We're still dealing with the fallout of
She's
last
going
season.
through a crisis of faith.
And yeah, that's the other thing too, because she was like the religious superhero. This is my gift from God, and now I've learned that my mom actually secretly did this to me.
What? It's not God, it's science?
Yeah,
what?
and that's pretty upsetting. Understandably so.
Yeah.
I think she played such a bit of a minor role in this season in comparison to the first season.
Yeah, she just kind of serves to be the superhero on their side. And
she's
I gotta
the
say,
inside man.
She's usually kind of useless in a fight. It just seems like
she has a bad power.
Well, it seems like she doesn't use it very well. Like there's a part where she's fighting Black Noir, and she's trying to fist fight him when she could be shooting him with like energy from a distance.
Girls get it done, right?
And Black Noir is like beating her senseless. And I think it's Maeve who shows up, right? Yeah, Maeve shows up and saves her and numerous times.
By shoving like a candy bar in his mouth because he's got a tree nut allergy.
Yeah. Is that an Almond Joy?
I love Almond Joy.
And speaking of terrible powers, I totally forgot I wanted to bring this up when we were talking about Lamplighter. But Lamplighter's whole thing, like he can't generate fire. He needs a spark. That's fault number one.
Yeah.
But you're telling me this fire guy isn't fireproof? Like he's susceptible to flames? That's a bum power, dude. That's a bad power set.
That did confuse me because you know what's funny? In X-Men, there is a Pyro.
Mm-hmm.
And he also can't create fire. He has this
the Zippo. He also uses like the Zippo at the beginning.
Well, that's what they do in the movie, but in the comic book, he always had a suit with like a flamethrower,
like a Spider-Man web thrower, but with a spark.
But I feel like I saw Pyro all the time, like wrap himself in fire and like move.
Because if you're a fire like superhero or villain, you should like Pokemon. You know what I mean? You're not susceptible to a fire attack if you're fire type.
Yeah, we need to be going by Pokemon rules
always,
and the boys should have picked up on that. Yeah, but I guess if he accidentally burned himself, he can control the fire to the point where it won't. I don't know. It gets weird.
Maybe it was just a willful, like, release of his powers because he wanted to kill himself.
Ooh, maybe.
But I was just thinking like some of these guys are like bulletproof, you know what I mean? This guy's not like at least flame retardant.
You're right. And then how does that hero get to the 7? You're telling me no one had a better skill loadout than Lamplighter?
Don't we have a guy who can make his own fire? I feel like Homelander
and boy,
would have been bringing
play
that point
on
up.
like the old Green Lantern costume with Lamplighter too, with his old costume was hilarious. Yeah. They just walk in and the boys are just dressed normally and he's just dressed in this stupid costume.
Giggling at him. That stuff's so good, dude. Or even like Mallory, she's like...
Yeah, he does look like a dork.
Back to Starlight.
Back to Starlight. Other than that, yeah. I mean, she has a couple nice moments with her mom. We get her motivation. Her and Huey are, I guess, a little bit closer.
Yeah, they're working on repairing that bond, you know? Yeah. They get real close for a second.
They do. But what's cool about what I like about Starlight is she's like the bravest of all the heroes. She's the most willing to actually put her neck out there.
The Starlight tribute song to the Invisible Man, whatever his name is. That's so funny, dude.
Yeah.
We're surrounded by our heroes. When she like can't escape the song when they're like in God's country, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's on every channel. That's
Yeah.
so funny.
Yeah, you know, I do like her little side quest with Gecko. That whole thing is kind of cool. The guy who like regrows his limbs so he works as like an S&M hooker.
Yeah.
That was pretty. I'm gonna go ahead and say delightful, objectively for sure. But
Objectively,
I was delighted.
People might not find that delightful, but I do.
Yeah, I'll be in that.
Definitely
camp.
the people that pay for that sort of thing. They'll find it delightful.
There you go.
And not cheap either, as that scene tells us.
Yeah, dude. What did that guy drop like $1,400 or something?
Yeah,
in a
very
couple of
quickly.
minutes.
It's like, why does this guy still have a regular job? Taxes. But anyway, enough
lives in New
about
York.
taxes. Now we got the big two. Stormfront, the new character of the season, and Homelander, of course. But Stormfront, man, I just gotta say, I love Aya Cash. I love this actress.
Yeah.
She's so good. She's in You're the Worst, which is just
That's where I've heard of her from.
she's really funny and kind of just as rude as she is in this show. But I dig it. Stormfront is the new kid on the block, but also secretly not.
She's been around the block a few times,
Yeah.
a few different blocks.
And we see her.
Is she the first? Is she the first soup? I'm
Uh,
not sure if they dictated that.
no, yeah, I think when she's talking about her relationship to Frederick Vought,
Yeah.
she was like one of his first like creations.
Yeah. If not
Yeah.
the
He
first,
had, like-
very early.
Yeah, he had like what's the word I'm looking for? He had like betas like out in the field, you know what I mean? But this is the first one where he was like, I nailed it.
Got it right.
Hey, look what I did. I think I'm gonna marry this thing.
Yeah. So Stormfront's like, I guess, big reveal. She's like secretly a Nazi.
Ooh.
And like 80 years old.
Yeah.
Is there a better bad guy than a Nazi?
Yeah. You can never draw the line clearer than that.
Yeah,
Oh,
dude.
Oh, they're a Nazi.
Ooh,
Ooh,
I hate this person.
Yeah, I hate this one.
Yeah. That's a good way to do
I
it.
like that they play with that in the show too, because she's obviously like pushing forward like a far right wing agenda throughout the entire show. But once it's revealed that she's an actual Nazi, then everyone like is like, well, that doesn't look good for optics, so we have to drop her.
Yeah, she even says it
Yeah.
like, people love my message. They just don't like the word Nazi.
Yeah. And that's definitely poking at all this, like, far right wing stuff. Especially like the whole thing of like she's got people to produce memes for her to like change the dialogue of the internet. I'm like, wow, this is so 2020. How incredibly relevant.
Very true.
So one of the things I like about Stormfront is she's a catalyst for a lot of things throughout like the overarching plot. She gets Starlight to like believe in herself and be a little bit more assertive, which comes around like in a big way. I love her like seduction of Homelander because at the beginning you can tell he's really uncomfortable with it. He's like, wait, I don't have all the power in this situation. Like, this is a very new thing for me. And I think it's like exciting for him. You know what I mean? He like needs a mommy. He's always looking for his mommy. But yeah, I really enjoyed Stormfront as a character overall. And boy, do I love lightning. I wish I could shoot some lightning out of my hands.
She's also the catalyst that starts the conversation with Homelander of becoming stronger with his son.
Yeah.
Oh,
creating a
yeah.
bond with Ryan.
Yeah, yeah. I do really like when they're like, when Homelander takes them, they're like having this weird, awkward, like new family thing, and everything seems to be going pretty well. And then there's this one part where she starts to indoctrinate Ryan with like about like white.
They're against us because we're white.
Yeah, yeah. And then at the end, Homelander's like, okay.
While she's saying that to him, he's like,
Yeah. Well, that was kind of intense.
A little concerned about this.
Yeah.
But I guess that brings us to Homelander, who is huge this season. He's like
yeah.
half the plot for sure.
And you see so many different sides of him this season.
Oh,
that you
definitely.
haven't seen before. Obviously, when he is almost about to bang himself
Oh yeah.
in the beginning of the season, which is
really
like, okay, we're in
considered
that
it.
depraved part of the boys. But then you also see him show connection with Ryan. You see him like wanting to show a little bit of fatherly like role model figure, and you think like, wow, this is like you're kind of seeing a different side of Homelander that's not this psychopathic killer, one that you can like kind of relate to in a little way. And then he kind of like empathizes like what Homelander experienced as a kid to Ryan and why he doesn't want that to happen to Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is like it is a little bit self-serving, but it is like extremely important to him, like this relationship with his son, and that his son doesn't grow up like ashamed of himself or anything.
But at the same time, he's not acting in that kid's best interest.
No.
But that's just because he's so delusional. But at least he is. Yeah, I guess technically he's like the only person who's acting for somebody else.
Except for maybe like Huey.
And I was gonna say probably Billy.
Yeah.
Too, even though Billy does pull
too.
some very selfish moves this season.
Oh, Butcher gonna do what Butcher does, you know?
Yeah, there's no help in that. But there was something else about Homelander that really... the big one is... it's like a big reveal towards the end, of course, but Homelander is trying to like train his son because he has powers as well, but then we kind of learn at the end that his son might have greater powers than he does.
Yeah, his son might be more powerful.
Especially, at least in the heat vision department. Because Homelander, we've seen him use his heat ray. We kind of see how it works. We've never seen him go like full blast, I guess. But essentially, that's what we see the kid do. And it's how Stormfront is kind of like... apparently not written out of the episode, or out of the series, though. She's still alive at the end of the season. I mean, I think...
They just put her in a prison.
She's
or
real
something
crispy.
Like that.
She's real
That's
crispy.
for sure.
Maybe they're going to give her like a Darth Vader style suit. It gave me such Revenge of the Sith vibes.
Definitely.
And I love how she's just like stuck, like talking in German.
Yeah.
Which is probably around the same thing she was doing. I really want to look up to see like if somebody knows what she's saying there. I'm sure it's like an old Nazi speech or
Oh,
something.
in Germany?
Yeah, I just read it on the internet today. Literally this morning. Someone was like, here's this translated.
Oh, how funny.
It's already flown out of my brain.
One of the things I really like with their whole thing, when they're kind of starting off in their relationship, there's a scene where Homelander tries to warn Stormfront about underestimating Starlight. It's when they like have her captured, and she just totally blows it off. And I did like a 12-hour rewatch where I just watched the whole season since like last night in preparation for this.
Nice.
Yeah, I was like, I could watch it twice, I
That dedication,
I technically
man.
have time. Let's go. But yeah, I thought that was really cool because it ends up like biting her big time in the end of it, like her underestimation of Starlight. And she kind of gave Starlight the upgraded she needed in herself to be defeated by her ultimately in the end. I thought that was super cool.
That is a great point. That is a great point, Frank. I hope we see her
guess
next season. I hope that she's
that
at least
segues us
there.
into the boys characters.
Ooh, the boys. Yeah, let's talk about the boys. I don't think there's... Well, who would... I mean, I guess... Like, obviously, Huey and Butcher have the biggest roles. Like, we get more stuff between Kimiko and Frenchie. Like...
For Kimiko, Frenchie, and MM, I feel like it's a lot more character development in their own stories versus, like, having, like, huge parts on what's going on this time around.
Yeah, they each get their own little moment.
Yeah.
For sure. Especially with Kimiko, like, she's got a brother that we meet who dies.
The boy.
Is he called the boy?
No, that's how so one of the things that happens between Frenchie and Kimiko is like they eventually get to a point where she starts teaching him in the language. But before that happens, and they're trying to chase down the soup terrace before they know it's Kimiko's brother,
That's right.
she just keeps saying like a girl, a boy, like, and this is the boy. Like,
Yeah.
I'm the girl, he's the boy. Like, that's the boy that we're looking for.
Yeah, she just wasn't able to communicate it
Yeah.
through their limited language. But yeah, he ends up getting killed by Stormfront, which kind of sends her on like a hateful.
She becomes a
Rampage.
contract killer for a little while.
Yeah,
She like rips a Russian like mobster's face off, which is one of the most brutal kills that I've ever seen. And
Love it.
I've seen True Lies over and over again where that dude gets shot off with a rocket into a helicopter.
that is good stuff.
Yeah.
And that part's right out of comic 1, issue 1 of the boys.
Really?
That's like one of the first pains is when they find the female and like she rips this dude's face off and like throws it out the window.
Dude, that is so gnarly.
That's cool. She's really given Mia like X-23 vibes, like
Yeah.
Lady Wolverine. Especially
she regenerates a little bit.
There's a moment where she gets her neck snapped, and I was like, "What? They're gonna kill?"
She does
Kimiko?
regenerate. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
they
she
did
just goes
that
back
in
to life.
season 1 with Black Noir fighting her.
Does that happen?
She
I forgot
died.
about that in season 1.
Yeah.
She got a knife fight with Black Noir and gets all dead, and then she comes back.
Oh, okay.
Which is why Frenchie isn't like, he's pissed, you know what I mean, when her neck gets snapped, but he's
Yeah.
not like defeated and crying or anything.
See, I hadn't watched season 1 again, and I think I'd forgotten about that since the last time.
Well, they didn't let us binge the way I wanted to binge, so after I ran out of episodes, I figured I'd jump back to season 1 to fill the time.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny. And then Mother's Milk. I mean, this poor guy. I just feel like
Yeah.
he's like, I want to see my family.
He's just trying to like work on his little dollhouse, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Trying to get back to his family. I love MM, man. And he got like, MM is just kind of stuck in this situation. Like he's guilty by association, you know what I mean? They're all like the most wanted men in the country now. We find out about his OCD. We get a little bit out of his dad. But again after again, he's kind of like, he's always like, guys, this is a bad idea. And then he's just like, what did I say? Like,
Yeah. And then he goes along with it.
and then he ends up getting like a penis wrapped around his neck. You know what I mean? He always catches the worst of every situation.
Yeah, he does.
What an amazing sequence. That whole entire bust of like this underground Vought compound that they're working on testing soups with is just incredible.
Yeah.
And we find Massive Penis Man and blow up, what is it? Vomit Guy who vomits on himself.
Yeah,
and
that was a good way to
dies.
beat that guy. It was really funny.
Yeah. Another time where the person's power affects their, like, man, too bad your power didn't.
Ooh, you needed some thicker skin.
Yeah, that's all you needed.
And then we find Cindy, which is crazy because it's kind of like, I don't want to say like a red herring, but it's definitely like a misdirect. Because
Yeah.
Cindy is the bald superpower, or the soup that's released from that prison, who has the power to smash people's heads.
Really
Oh.
like
Smash
their
them.
entire bodies.
I mean, that's for sure a red herring. That's
Yeah.
like classic
Right?
red herring right there.
And then I mean, obviously, I mean, giant spoiler. If you're still listening at this point and you haven't turned it off, please stop listening. But here we go. The giant spoiler is about Victoria Newman, the congresswoman who is running for president, I think, at the end of the season.
AOC.
She survived. What's that?
She's AOC. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, she's AOC. She's the AOC clone. But she's heading up this coalition against soups. However, she's one of the only ones to survive the congressional attack on Vought that like kills a huge part of the cast off. I mean, like,
and
of
but
subsequent
it's not
cast.
like a huge part of the cast, but like a
Inconsequential
ton of
cast.
people.
Yeah, because
yeah, like secondary cast. And, but anyways, you end up seeing that she has head popping powers.
Yeah, and you know, on my rewatch today, well, I guess it was last night because it was the first episode, or I forget what it. After our first head popping, like you get Huey like screaming, "Our head's gonna explode! Our head's gonna explode!" which is hilarious, and then it immediately cuts to Congressman Newman. Like that is the
Newman.
first thing we see after the first head explosion. And after
Did
my
you-
second watch, I was like, you guys, you sons of something. You told me right after the first one.
tell you.
I almost wanted to rewatch that congressional hearing after knowing the end because I wanted to see what she was doing during that scene. I didn't get a chance.
So for the
to,
most part, she's looking directly at people when their heads are popping, but then Mallory runs her out of the room and people's heads are still exploding. So I don't think she needs line of sight. I
Yeah.
think she just kind of likes seeing people's heads pop.
And there's even a point where she's like acting very panicked and everything. Like
Yeah.
the character plays it well.
100%.
I had a feeling when we were watching that. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's this AOC character is popping people's heads off.
Yeah, and David's being
Interesting.
modest. He called it. When we had a discussion, he was like,
Really?
everybody gave their guess. Yeah, we were talking to, I think it was Randy.
Yeah.
And so it was a discussion between the four of us, and David was like, I think it might be this AOC character.
Yeah.
That's crazy because I was thinking it was the Cindy person the entire time. I was like, where is she hiding? Why? Why is she doing all this nefarious things? I don't understand.
It just seemed like it was too much of a kind of cynical point to make. Like, let's take this politician who everyone loves, because that's what the show's all about. Let's take what we're supposed to think about something and flip it on its head. So it just seems right in line. Let's take this politician that everybody adores and let's no, really, they're the bad guy. But what I was telling these guys, I don't know if you were there. This is literally like,
I
okay,
think this was another Rocket League chat.
this was another Rocket League chat. Okay, Danny. So the end of the show, right? The end of the show, we have evil congresswoman in this political office with Huey, and the door's even closing, I think, a little bit on the scene. Does that remind you of a certain adult animated cartoon with a very similar season finale?
Adult animated cartoon.
Is the end of
Rick and Morty?
Yeah, it's the end of the second season of Rick and Morty when you find out that evil Morty is like running.
That's right. Is the one that got away.
Yeah, and he's like running for office as President Morty or whatever.
That's awesome.
It's like, wow, this is exactly the same thing in this weird kind of turnaround way.
That is really
That's
strange.
hilarious. Didn't even notice that. Didn't even put two and two.
Yeah, so that's, I guess, Mother's Milk and Newman, Frenchie Kamiko, which I think is going to bring us to...
Huey?
You know what? Can we Butcher first?
Let's do
Because
Butcher
I feel
first.
like
Butcher.
Huey plays more of a role in this one, and Butcher, they're probably really close, but I feel like
Yeah.
Huey's more
Let's
of an
do it.
all-encompassing character.
Butcher is making me angry at the beginning of the season because he's just so selfish.
Yeah.
He's just
Yeah.
running away from his boys who, for the most part, I mean, for completely, he's dragged them into this scenario.
Gave up their lives.
Yeah, and now he's left them kind of aimless, but he's off. The big thing is, like, he knows where his wife's at. That's what he learns this season.
Learn she's alive.
Yeah, he even goes back to get Becca, but it's this dynamic now. It's that, Homelander knows about his kid, where his kid's at, and her purpose needs to be to make sure this kid doesn't grow up to be Homelander, because if there's two of them, what are you going to do? I mean, hopefully you have at least one decent one. And that's kind of what we get with Butcher. He cleans up a lot of family stuff. He cleans up the stuff.
Including, like, with his dad.
Yeah, his dad's the other big part of this, too.
And we
And we
learn
learn about Lenny.
Yeah, that's exactly what I say. We learn about Lenny, his younger brother, who bears a striking resemblance to Huey.
Yeah.
Apparently,
This was a little. That was a little all too much like on the nose.
Right.
Oh, he reminds me of Huey. Oh, he's so good for you. You really need someone like that.
but I also
It's
like,
oh, okay.
slightly unrelated, but I just love it every time Frenchie calls him Petite Huey.
Huey. Yeah, I
Little
love it.
Huey.
That's so good.
It's like he's a grown man. He's seen some stuff.
And he's taller than you.
Yeah.
He killed a soup.
If anything, Frenchie's the small one.
Yeah. Also, like with Frenchie, because I love like when they announce that they're all the most wanted men. You know what I mean? And they get to Frenchie and this man whose real identity is unknown.
I don't remember that. Wow, I totally forgot about
because
that.
Frenchie's just this like enigma. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really liked seeing at the end of the season, right where Butcher has the whole confrontation with Ryan and Stormfront and Homelander, and just seeing like the acting range of Carl Urban finally get a little more explored, because Carl Urban is a dope actor.
He's really
And-
good.
They gave him a couple shines like that in this season.
And
Yeah.
and for all this time that he spends in the woods this season, they should think about calling him Carl Rural. Know what I'm saying?
Oh wow!
Ooh.
Woo, that was good. But it was bringing back some Lord of the Rings echoes a little bit, especially because I'm pretty sure that the person that plays his father in Lord of the Rings is the one that plays his father in this one.
Really?
That would be a weird coincidence.
That would be
I
weird.
think so. I think he's like the king of. He's not the king of Gondor, but he's like one of the kings. He's like. Anyway, what was I gonna say? Anyways, you get to see like Carl Urban's like acting chops really get put to the test when you see it. Like he's not even saying.
Dang, man, he is in Lord of the Rings. You're right.
Yeah, both of them are, and it's just weird to like. It was good to like see his range when like. He's not even saying words when he confronts when Homelander confronts him and Ryan. Like he's just Becca's dead. His world is like crumbling around him, and he's just like the expression he has on his face is just awesome.
Yeah, he gets
You can-
3 words of dialogue in that entire like scene, and it's no and I promised. Another
it's
part
a
where
heavy
they
scene.
where they give him some really good range is when he goes to try the second attempt to convince Dr. Vogelbaum to testify to Congress, and he straight up threatens to kill his daughter, who's making him tea in the next room, and then find the rest of his family and wipe them out within the day.
Yeah.
And then the daughter comes in with the tea, and he's just a delightful guest at tea time. You know what I mean? Up until the point where he walks out, and the intense look that he gives Dr. Vogelbaum while he's sipping his tea is probably one of my favorite performances that I've seen this year. Just the way that his face shifts from like delightful to like, all right, and now you probably believe how big of a maniac I am.
Yeah, he's great. He's
so
great.
good.
Very underrated guy. From such great things as Ghost Ship.
Oh, Ghost Ship is dope.
And
Ghost Ship is dope.
White Fang,
Dread.
the TV series. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, he's in a lot of great stuff. He's Bones.
I mean, Lord of the Rings, bro.
Yeah, he's Bones.
I guess that brings us to Petit Huey.
Petit Huey, the Billy Joel man himself.
Oh, that was great, man.
So much Billy Joel this season.
Yeah, they like hit it extra hard for sure.
I think you were there with us, or maybe it was just Michelle and I, but we were like, dang, you know that Billy Joel Spotify is bumping right now, and he's definitely happy about that.
Yeah, we were talking about him. Billy Joel's good year, man.
Yeah, he's getting that royalty check right now. It's like Fleetwood Mac and that Dreams meme.
That's good stuff.
Man, that
we
exploded.
don't. I feel like we don't get a lot of development from Huey this one. He's kind of just like who he's always been, except for like maybe the tail end. You know what I mean? He has a discussion with Lamplighter, and what it really is like a talk about an action, but they're just using the term cuck the whole time.
Yeah,
which is it
good.
gets really funny, like the metaphor of it. That's.
I really wish I
scene.
had been in the room watching it with you boys when that part came on. 'cause
Dude,
it was
it's so
magical.
good. And you know what? I think it's the same. Yeah, it's the same episode when they find out that Annie's been captured, and then they do a hard cut to Huey, and it seems like his reaction of that news, and he's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it!" But it's just more porn. And then he gets the news. That's such a good gag, man. Saw a lot more penis this season than I thought I was going to. Now that I think about it,
A whole heck of a lot. A whole mile's worth.
that's a lot of nuts.
But back to Huey.
Yeah, back to Huey. Yeah, I feel like the reason I wanted to save him last as the boys, I feel like he was the main force in the bulk of what they get done this season. He kind of rises to the occasion. He's the one giving pep talks this season, even though like Mother's Milk and Frenchie aren't like 100% on board until Butcher tries to leave them. And they're like, they back him and Kamiko, you know what I mean? But yeah, really loved Huey this season. He's still just like a sad dude, but he's tired of not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
And now he's got the love of his life, and they're public.
That's right. Well, but
No, I mean at the beginning she's like not happy with him, you know.
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean?
they both. Yeah,
and even
it's
towards the
another
end, she's
season
like,
of them. Will they? Won't they?
But I was gonna say, oh well, no. You're right. I'm like misremembering a little bit, because he has that conversation about how he needs to stand on his own 2 feet,
be less clingy,
but
but
he's
not
like,
to Starlight.
Yeah, not to Starlight. I'm gonna cling on you, obviously. But yeah, the boys kind of break up at the end. Huey goes to work for AOC and her campaign.
Well, the boys don't break up. They keep doing their thing, but they lose a Spice Girl.
But they also get funding now, don't they?
Maybe they do, right? Because they offer Butcher that position, but then he just walks away.
But he had like a smile on his face a little bit, like,
Yeah, but
I get to mess with these soups a little bit.
that's
more.
always his smile, though. You know what I mean? I just feel like the beginning of next
He
season,
wasn't smiling in that Tony Cicero's.
that next season, they're going to have that first episode where you don't see everybody. You know what I mean? It's going to be one of those first episodes you got to like wait and like, oh, okay.
And they'll have to
Bring
get
the
the
boys
band back together.
Yeah, and then you get the boys back in town.
The like opening chunk of the Mighty Ducks 2,
Yeah.
where they go get everybody after the off season.
Exactly. They're hanging out at Dino's.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we pretty much covered the gist of
Yeah.
everything.
All the nails on the head.
Yeah, man.
I mean,
Mallory, we get a lot more Mallory this season for sure. I hope we continue to get more of her. I do really like her character.
she was able to kind of address the darkness within herself and realize that vengeance was not the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Almost everybody has that same kind of, we're back. We're just a little bit stronger.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much what everybody did this season.
Except for that Asian guy who was trying out for the 7, the blind.
Oh,
That was
man.
pretty rough.
What was his name?
I don't remember.
His name is Robert Paulson.
In life, he had no name, but in death. Yeah, I mean,
That part was hilarious, though.
that was like some really dark, funny stuff. That's like what The Boys does best, I think. Just really dark, soul-grinding humor. But if that's your
I
thing.
mean, as far as like maybe segueing into like things to look forward to for next season.
Oh, I think that's a good thing. What do you look forward to, and what do you hope you get?
Well, I mean, it ended really well with like the classic zoom in, like tone out of like the conversations that are going around him. Like Homelander is giving a speech about being heroes, and
But he's,
you can
like,
literally
inside
see that
his
he is
head.
unhinging in the back. So I don't know how much more depraved he's gonna get, what he's gonna do, but I'm sure that it is probably going to have him be the central villain again next season. I don't know how.
Yeah, him or Gus Fring, something like that.
Well, they just need to send that dude an old man in a wheelchair, you know?
Dang,
That's
a
how you
little
nip
bell.
that one in the bud.
Take care of that. I just kind of said a little bit earlier, I'm just expecting that Civil War style. The team is split up, and A-Train and the Deep are going to join Homelander to try and get back into the 7. Black Noir will be there. And then the other side is going to be like Starlight and Queen Maeve, and that's it.
I think at this point they might even be able to finagle something with A-Train, depending on what happens to him at the beginning of season 3.
Yeah. A-Train might even hop sides. In the comic books, pretty early on, the team takes Compound V, and they all become like soups.
Yeah,
The boys
That's
do.
kind of the worst part of the comics. That's
Yeah, that sounds like a bummer.
I was almost expecting them to go for it this year, but after this season, I kind of hope they never do. That's my hope.
They
Don't
shouldn't,
ever
because
do
that's
that.
like the whole principle, right?
Yeah, because then it just becomes two groups of superheroes fighting each other.
Yeah. And I think that's where the comic falls flat. You were talking about this a bit, David, but like there's a lot of parts where the comic wasn't well thought out, I thought, and it falls flat. And that's particularly one of them where it's just like they took the Compound V and they themselves become like super enhanced. And it's like, okay, well then what are you fighting for? at this
Yeah,
point?
and it happens so quick too. It's like really early on.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else I'd really like from the next season other than season 3. It feels like Homelander's finally gonna have to come out in the open a little bit. Everything's gonna be a little more public. Stakes got to be a little bit higher, and I think maybe someone's got to die.
Yeah,
to
I
really elevate that
honestly
stakes.
hope that next season they push Homelander to that limit. Like they finally get him to that point where he's just like, you wanted the bad guy, you got the bad guy.
Yeah.
That would be dope. Just full on all out war, like you're saying.
And then what are they going to do with AOC,
I kind of hope. I don't know if they're like I'm kind of I don't know if I'm hoping or just thinking this is the way that it's gonna go, but I'm thinking she's gonna be like a Vought shill almost, like some extra card in the back of Stan Edgar's pocket. You know what I mean? That he's working from the other side.
That's what I was kind of getting that vibe too, for sure. She's working the opposite side, but to secure what really she's saying she's against, I guess. Yeah.
Because that's what you do. Like Stan Edgar said, it's not emotion. It's my profit margins for my shareholders. That's what I'm looking out for.
Yes.
Like I'm not doing any of this for me. Like I have a mission, and that's what would serve his mission best. Having like an inside a woman in this case. But also shout out to Inside Man. What a delightful film.
Wow.
Well, is that a wrap on The Boys season 2, everyone?
I think that's a UMR wrap on The Boys season 2. Fantastic
Yes.
watch. Worth it.
Very
Worth
good.
it. Go binge it right now. In fact, if you haven't watched it, I'm jealous because now you get to watch it all at once.
I mean, I might go watch it for a third time right now. Let's see how it goes.
Well, I'll be sure to follow and subscribe, please. Check us out on Apple Podcasts. I don't know how you're listening to this, but check us out on Apple Podcasts. Check us out on Spotify. Check us out on YouTube. You can follow us on IG, Instagram at Uninformed Movie Reviews. You can follow us at David and Frankenbeans on Facebook. give us a email at davidandfrankandbeans@gmail.com on any topics you want us to cover or any, hate mail towards Frank. We'll be sure to forward it to his personal email.
If you have just any questions about how we do things here, about life in general, just shoot them by. Who knows if you'll get answers, but you don't get answers unless you ask a question. If you happen to be catching this just out in the airwaves in space and you're an extraterrestrial, come pick me up, bro. Let's go. You can do whatever experiments you want on me. I just want to see the inside of your spaceship.